Guys, this is the VTOMAN FlashSpeed 600 power station. You can see that we're in the process of doing some heavy testing on it. It's got some strengths, it's got some weaknesses. Let me show you what it can do. Hey guys, before we get into the testing, a whole bunch of you leave the video early. So I'm appealing to those of you that do that. Before you go, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. 4 100% free things for you to do, but that benefits the channel tremendously. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to those of you that watched the entire video. Alright, let's unbox this power station. We've got some documentation, fun sheet of stickers. Inside this small box, we've got an AC charging cord, no charging brick. We've got a 12-volt car charging cable. We've got a USB Type A to Type C. And we've got a USB Type-C cable. And here's the power station itself. Got a little door right here that has an image of a battery. I presume that's for the expansion battery. Over here we've got our AC input. Up here at the top, we have the DC input barrel plug. And then we've got an Anderson connector for solar. Obviously got the nice display here in the middle. Little barrel style port for DC output, as well as the 12-volt car style plug. 2 Type-C 100-watt ports, 2 Type-A fast charge ports, and then 2 AC power outlets. This inverter is rated up to 600 watts. I do like how all the inputs and outputs are on the front of the power station. That's very nice. No wireless charging, but we do have a nice little storage container here. It's a little challenging to get everything in there, but might work, maybe? Not really. So, just a ventilation port on the side. We do have a light on the back, it looks like. Let's see if we can get that to turn on. Low, high, oh, low, medium, high, and strobe and SOS. And just some ventilation on this side. You know, for the size of battery that they're advertising, this sure is light. It's supposed to have a 499 watt-hour battery. It will charge at 400 watts from the wall. Your solar input, it has a 12 to 50 volt range, 200 watts max. I'm happy to see that they've at least given us a 200 watt input on this. And then we know that it has a 600 watt inverter. It says it can surge up to 1200 watts, 12 volts at 10 amps on those outputs. Still can't get over how light feeling that is. Maybe I'm just up in the night. Let's test it and see what it can do. Can this VTOMAN power station run a 120 volt mini split heat pump? Unfortunately, no. This just has a 600 watt inverter, and while this can ramp way down to below 600 watts, I have seen it go as high as 950 or so watts, so that's over the limit that this unit can run. Alright, what about running a microwave? Once again, unfortunately, this inverter is too small to power a full-size microwave. Can this VTOMAN power station power a full-size kitchen refrigerator? Unfortunately, no. This fridge requires a huge amount of surge to get started, and then it also has a defrost cycle to do the frost-free freezer. That cycle comes on periodically throughout the duration of the fridge running, and you end up with pulling over 800 watts. So unfortunately, this power station is just not quite big enough to run it. Can this VTOMAN power station run a full-size household vacuum cleaner? No, it's too small for that. Can this VTOMAN power station run a batch of wash? Once again, no, it is too small. Can this power station run an electric hot plate? No, it can't. This is going to be too much power for this little power station. However, it's a good opportunity to test and make sure that this does cut itself off before it self-destructs. So let's fire this up and see what happens. Yep, we've got error code 03, and you can see that that is shut off. So thankfully this power station does have overload protection. This right here is what this power station really excels at. So we've got a high-end gaming laptop that's plugged into the AC power right there. Got a tablet that's plugged into one of the USB-Cs. We've got the cell phone charging, and I've got a MacBook Air charging as well. So powering small to even large portable electronics, this power station is perfect for this kind of thing. It's twice the size of, say, like a 200 watt-hour power station. That's a very common size, but yet it's small enough that it's still fairly tossable and easy to carry along with you. Let me show you a few other things that it's good at powering, considering that it's not super great for heavy backup loads during a grid down situation around your house. Let me show you something this VTOMAN power station is really good at. Notice that I've got 3 4K monitors, and I've got the best YouTube channel playing on this monitor at the moment, all running off this desktop PC. You can see at the moment we're pulling just about 300 watts, somewhere right in there. So this would be a fantastic unit to use on a computer like this, if you needed some extra runtime when the power grid goes down. Now you do need to be a little careful. If I were to crank this PC all the way, and max it out with, like a 4K gaming benchmark or something, this would actually pull over 600 watts, which would overload the power station. So you do have to be a little careful, but for the vast majority of the computer systems out there, the 600 watts that this power station can provide is more than sufficient. I just happen to have a really high-end unit that's overclocked and the works. So something that this is very good at running would be 12-volt compressor fridges like this. Can this VTOMAN power station run a full-size gas furnace? Notice that we've got this yellow cord coming through this coil, and it's feeding into this EZ generator transfer switch. This unit makes it a complete breeze to back up any hardwired 120 volt device in your house. I'll leave a link for this as well as the video of my installation in the description, because it's really changed the game for me here. Alright, we've got the induced draft running. Here comes the hot surface igniter. You can see that's only pulling, if I can get this to focus, just over 100 watts, 107 watts, and we have ignition. Now without the hot surface igniter, you can see we're only pulling 60 watts. So what happens here when the fan gets running? Okay, we're ramping up, as you can see. Alright, looks like we've kind of stabilized here. 550 watts, full-size gas furnace running on this VTOMAN power station. Very impressive. Now, this does not have a giant capacity, right? So, over 500 watts, just under 600. If this were fully charged, you'd be just under an hour of runtime on this furnace. Recognizing, of course, that furnaces cycle off and on, right? So they're never running 100%. So you could probably get a couple cycles out of the furnace on this power station if your house hadn't gotten super duper cold. But very cool to see that it does run at least my size of furnace. Your luck may vary. Alright, this VTOMAN power station is at 0%. We're going to see how fast it recharges from dead to full. I'm also going to meter the power through this kilowatt meter to see how much power ends up going into this unit. It seems really, really light for the capacity and the battery chemistry. Maybe they've got some voodoo magic going on, I don't know, but I'm curious to see how much power we can put into this. And then I'm going to run a capacity test once we have fully charged it. Plug this in. You can see we're charging about 400 watts. We'll go ahead and start the stopwatch. I'm going to reconfigure these cords and get you guys on time-lapse. We're about an hour into this test here, and two quick observations. It's beat the manufacturer's spec saying 0 to 80% in an hour, but the fans are cranking now. Definitely makes a little bit of noise. So if you've got a heavy load or you're really charging it, be prepared for some fan noise. Okay, 100% fully charged. I missed it just by a minute, but based on the time lapse, it took an hour and 12-ish minutes to charge from 0 to full. Not too bad. Now, this is the results of the charging test, 0.49, so that's exactly what the battery is rated for. It should have been, in my mind, a little higher than that, because there's losses to heat and fans and whatnot. So anyway, next I'm going to do a discharge capacity, and we'll see what the results are with that. It won't be 100% efficient because of inverter overhead and losses and stuff, but I'm curious to see how far below the rated capacity we pull on the AC side. Alright, we're pulling just over 117 watts, and as you can see, this does only produce 110 volts. It's not 120. According to this watt meter, we're pulling just over 100, so there's about 17 watts difference, and here's our kilowatt hours. So we hope to get close to 0.49. We're going to be under that due to inverter losses and overhead and whatnot, but let's see how far below that we are. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this ends up. Notice that we're at 20% remaining on the discharge, and notice 0.27. So barely over half the rated battery capacity, and supposedly we only have 20% remaining. It'll be very interesting to see how this ends. Capacity test is completed. I don't have the fancy kilowatt meter that saves the results even when it loses power, but as we saw in the time-lapse, we discharged 0.35 kilowatt hours. And so out of 0.49, we got 71% of the rated capacity of this. Notice that the percentage was not very accurate. It dropped really fast and then sat on 1% for an eternity. So it wasn't a flop like I was afraid it would be at the 20% mark, but 71% is still substantially lower than, you know, the average 80 to 85%. Even with the AC inverter enabled. So just bear that in mind with this power station, guys. So my thoughts and pros and cons on this. A good thing is I think they've really struck a nice balance between affordability and features. It did seem really low on the capacity test, and it's super, super lightweight, which is a pro from portability aspect, but it makes me suspicious about, you know, exactly what size that battery may be. We pulled just barely over 70%. It's impossible to pull 100% capacity through an inverter. There's wasted heat and whatnot through the conversion process. But it's not uncommon to get, you know, 80, 85% rated capacity, and we were 70, barely over 70. So anyway, just keep that in mind. This size is incredibly handy for small portable electronics, maybe 12-volt compressor fridges, that kind of thing. It's kind of stuck in a funny position when it comes to home appliance backup, as you saw, because it's not quite big enough capacity and inverter-wise to power a lot of the common household appliances. You need to step up to a larger size, which VTOMAN has, and hopefully someday in the future I'll get to test some of those larger units as well. So be sure, if you're buying this, that you have a specific use case for it with small electronics, things like that, and you're not trying to run, heavy household appliances with it. It's a little on the loud side. When the fans really get cranking, it's a little loud. 11 integrated storage, 4 cables, etc. Very nice touch. Gotta love the lights. I think VTOMAN certainly has done a good job at trying to check as many boxes as they can while still being a budget offering. So I'm going to leave a link for it down in the description below. Take a look at that. Look up further information if you're interested, and comment any thoughts or questions that you may have. I do try to read and respond to all of those comments. And I know, the companies rely heavily on looking at your comments to get real-world feedback and thoughts. So please leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. I would really appreciate it. These videos take a lot of time and effort to put together, if you can't tell. You doing those things really help and benefit the channel and add excitement and motivation to me to continue. Sure appreciate all of you guys. Take care. We'll catch you next time.